Hello, guys. All right, so we're back. Everything seems to be working. We figured out that the reason we had to delay this is because we scheduled the round initially during a Codeforces round, during a Div 2. So it kind of makes sense that there was a long queue. Yeah, so, all right, so we are back though, and we're doing this round. For those that don't know, this is round 2 of Blitz Cup 20, Codeforces Blitz Cup 2026. It's a 1v1 knockout tournament basically for GMs and above. And I count a GM and above apparently because I used to be a GM. So yeah, that's how it goes apparently. So yeah, 2 minutes to go. For once, I'm starting the stream without, before the actual round starts. And well, let me close the window because it's kind of loud. Here we go. 2 minutes, T-minus 2 minutes. This is the timer I'm looking at. For some reason, you guys cannot see the scoreboard on this thing. Why can't you see the scoreboard? It's a little weird. Wait, why can't you see the scoreboard? Because my match should be match 78, right? Yeah, there we go. So why can't you guys see this? That's exactly what I've overlaid on the screen. So, I mean, in theory, it should be right there. Like right about here, above my head. But apparently it's not. So hopefully that works. Hopefully that starts working. I don't have time to fix that now. Okay, 30 seconds. Let's get ready to rumble. Good luck, my friend. Yeah, this thing lasts 40 minutes, and whoever gets more points wins. All right, problem A is going to be quick, so let's hopefully. Oh no. Oh no, dude. Wait, what? Still in queue? So we can just print NTs unless, yeah, so this is correct. The second submission, the first submission is wrong. What's happening? Oh, okay, no, we actually have submissions working. Okay, nice. All right, my opponent was saying in the chat something about A not working, but about the queue still being long. But yeah, okay. It looks like we're off and running. All right, I got problem A. Looks like we both had the same mistake. I assume that we weren't printing the -1. All right, time for problem B. Let me prepare for this. Okay, it's going to be intense. Tree. N -1 lines describing the tree. And then Q. Okay. Dude, come on. Okay. Cool. Okay. He's just. I don't know how much I'm beating him by, which is the scary part. Oh man, this is highly speed based. Like I'm sure both of us just knew the solutions to both of these immediately. I mean, I guess it's also bugs based because of this like -1. We have to speed read the problem, make assumptions. Okay. Yeah, you guys still can't see the scoreboard. I'm afraid I can't help you there. Now it says 403 forbidden. Okay, I don't know what's up. Sorry about that. What? Input output. Okay. This is weird. Input text, output text. I don't actually remember how to do this. I think it's this way. I'm sure my opponent probably does know how to do this as well. So I guess we'll stick to it. I'm going to take this out initially though. Oh, no. Right. Right. I'm mainly worried about this, like. Okay. Jesus. This is super fast paced, man. Uh, I I feel like he'll be better than me at the harder problems, so I need to try and get some kind of lead on the easier ones, but I don't know. All right, so I've got the first 3, which means I've got 2, 3, 4 points. The next problem's worth 6. One after that is 8. So yeah, how long's left? Still 30 minutes. So this is like this is not long has gone. Input output though, that's a very weird format. I need to get rid of this. So some of these problems are quite old, so they're in a strange format. Add xi to the first ai, append ki to the end. Remove the last element. add the integer x to the first AI. So I've got I think I'm going to just do this. I think this is possible online, but it's kind of hard. It's kind of annoying to implement. Each line starts with an integer t. If t is 1, there's ax. So t is 2, it's k, which is the value you're appending, and else it's followed by nothing, and it's just remove the last value, right? I need to keep track of the total of all values. Initially, there's one value just with 0 in it, and so I think I just need to keep track of the last element and the adjacent differences, right? So I've got the last element and the adjacent differences. So if I'm removing a value, I can just do that. If I'm adding a value, I can also do something. And if I'm adding a to the last x, x to the last a, so I've got to, do this. And then, so if last is like 3, then I'm adding to this element, right? Shoot. I'm adding to the first 3 elements. I'm adding to this. So the adjacent differences here will be like, so I need to increase the adjacent difference, the second adjacent difference. Okay, so I need to do if minus loss to get it to like zero based, and if lost is equal to, if lost is the whole thing, then wait, it can't be the whole thing. If we're adding to the whole thing, Then we need to do just last val plus equals x, and total plus equals, else we have to do something else, total plus equals last times x. And then otherwise we have to just do the adjacent difference, right? Edge diff last plus equals x, minus equals x. So if it's k, then edge diff push back k minus last val, and last val equals k. And then here, if I'm popping, then and I also need to decrease total plus equals k. And then here, total minus equals last val, total edge diff pop back. But before I do that, I do last val equals last val minus edge diff back. And then after each step, I need to print double total over however many values I have. I really should have a variable for however many values I have, but I've done it using like +1 so far. Let's see, I don't even know if this is right. This is wrong. Okay, he solved it. Yeah, I've got a bug somewhere, I don't know where. He got D. All right, E is up next. Okay, since you can't see the standings, I'll just pull them up here. I'm 3 points ahead only at the moment. We've got half the contest to go. Okay. This one might take me some thinking. This next one. I don't know. We'll see. This should be an 1800 in theory. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. Inversion count. Oh, okay. Notation. Whether the number of versions is auto reason. Okay. I how do I do that? I don't actually know how to do that. Oh, this is probably easy, isn't it? Wait. I need to count the initial number of inversions, and then each time I reverse a segment, like you're just changing the parity of the inversions by the number. So I need to count the initial number of inversions. This is the tough part. How do I count the initial number of inversions? I need oh, it's a permutation, right? do I count inversions, man? I need a Fenwick tree, right? I don't remember how to do a Fenwick tree. That's the issue. I'm too out of practice. I think that's it. Okay, so now we have. Oh, no way, dude. No way. Oh. Oh man, I had it copying to my clipboard. Dude. Okay. All right. Okay, he gets it. All right, he's now in the lead. Come on, man. Interactive. All right, so if I do all zeros and then a 1 and then all zeros, I know what the first digit is and I can find the other digit somehow. But I'll just start. Okay, so and then you binary search somehow. It's got to be. If it's decreased, then the first digit is a 1. Now I need to binary search for the other digit. How do I binary search for the other digit? I just add I need to find the digit of the last. I'll find the digit of the last one, basically. Of the last other digit. So I know it's before. I know it's after 0. I know it's before n minus 1. I'll figure that out at the end. 1 and right. 1 plus right. Wait. So I know there's 1 after 1, and I know there's none after n. So at the end, I've found left is the one that's after. So 1 plus left. Okay. All right. Now I just need to check if there's a 1 on or after mid. And then how do I do that? I see out. That many zeros. And then so I switch them all to 1s. And so, wait, no. I need to query this. And then if the difference between this, if, well, if the initial one is 0, then I'm looking for 1. And so the only way this doesn't work is if they're all zeros, in which case it increased. If res equals ones plus and minus mid, then this didn't work. And it's all zeros. And else it's just if res equals one of the all ones, it's ones minus and minus mid. And then at the end, I do, what do I print? The position of 1 and the position of 0, pos 0, pos 1. Okay, now the thing with this one is it's interactive. Wait, what? Please. Let's go. Jeez. Okay, we've got 6 minutes. I'm in the lead, but it comes down to this, man. It comes down to this. It comes down to this. Oh boy. Ah, 6 minutes. Six minutes for G. Okay. Actually, less than 6 minutes because we have to wait 20 more seconds. Okay. This is intense. I hope you guys are enjoying this because I'm pretty stressed, and I assume I don't know, maybe my opponent is as well. Cheeky drink, card game. A card of suit 1 can beat a card of any other suit. So trump suit, and then if they're the same suit, yeah, okay, trump suit. The first player wins if for every card of the second player he can choose his card that can beat it. And there's no card that can be chosen twice. The number of ways to distribute the cards so the first player wins. What? The number of ways to distribute the cards so the first player wins. So the first player has to have. So we fix how many of the trump suit the first player has, right? Suits. So there are n suits. There are n cards in each suit, right? So m of trump as well. So we fix how many of the trump suit player 1 has, and then once we've done that, player 1 basically has to have like the same cards but better compared to. Seriously, this is 2200, right? This problem should be 2200 rated. Okay, so I'm not going to get off that easy this time. I need to think about this. So we've got m cards of the trump suit. There are n suits. So for each suit, let's picture a suit, right? If we don't have the trump suit helping us out, then we just need to have the thing is all the cards in that suit have to be split evenly between the two players. So you can't have more cards in one suit than your opponent does, because then you have to have the player that's winning every hand has to have at most as many cards in each suit as his opponent, and at least as many trump suit cards. So and all of your cards have to beat. So yeah, okay, I can see what's necessary and sufficient for your hand to be dominating the opponent's hand. So there's going to be some kind of DP, man. It's going to be some kind of DP where you do a DP over n by m. You do a DP over. So in the for like S suits where S is less than n, how many ways are there of using up B of the opponent's cards, A of my cards in total, and that means like A minus B is the number of trumps we used. And B of the opponent's cards, A of my cards, A minus B is the number of trumps I used, and then the what else do I need to know here? So the result, right? What is the best score? No. How many ways there are of doing this? Thing is, that is n times n squared times m, n times nm all squared, and that's like massive. That's 500 to the 5. Yeah, that's kind of an issue. Huh. It's kind of tough. Honestly, I'm not solving it. Well, it's really easy. So unless you like have to figure out some crazy thing and then do something really simple, but the number of ways to distribute the cause modulo this. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm going to be honest. And I've got 1 minute left, so I'm just going to sit here, I think. How do you actually do this? A card with suit A rank B. Because the TPI count was like way too slow. Because that's the number of states is 500 to the 5. The number of transitions could be even higher. I haven't really thought that through, but you'd have to either hyper optimize that or realize something. I mean, okay, I'm going to stop thinking about this now, but yeah, I'm not close to solving this. Okay, got like 1 second left. He has not submitted G. I think that means, why can you guys not see the score? I think that means I won though. Wow. Okay, that was intense, but yeah, I won. Let me open up Discord. He says congrats. That was intense. If yeah, GG. I'm surprised I won that, but well played. I think I just like narrowly won on speed on some of these problems. I also, you know, like I narrowly lost on one of them as well, I think. Yeah, it's just like a nail biting format. I'm just messaging him in Discord. Ah, okay. So that happened. The news I have though is that what this means. Wait, let me open something up and demonstrate. If I pull up the bracket here, where's the bracket? I can't find the bracket. Still can't find the bracket. Okay, here we go. Yeah. This is the bracket. And what this means, luckily I'm not in this matchup, but this is me. This is this round. And this is where we are now. So this is the current matchup that we've got going for the next round. Yeah, that's going to happen in the next like few days at some point. But if you look at this man that we're going up against, I actually can't find his. Yeah, basically he's quite strong in theory. I'll just do this. I've already scouted out my opponent. So I'm facing an LGM. Is the point I'm trying to make. So this might be the end of the run, but I guess you'll just have to find out. Yeah. So yeah, if my opponent from this round is watching, yeah, well played. It was a very close one. And if my next opponent is watching, well, good luck, I guess, but you might not need it. We'll see. So yeah, I mean, I might as well go through the problems as well, since we're here and since I've been doing that so far. I might as well share my screen and do that real quick. This time we got through more of the problems thanks to both me and my opponent, or maybe the problems were easier. I don't know, but we got to read G, so we got to read and think about G and failed to solve G, at least in my case. Yeah, let me pull up the problems. So for those of you who don't know while I'm doing that, this is the second year that this Blitz Cup is running. It's an interesting format, of course, as you've seen. Well, I guess I'll leave you to be the judge of that. It's sort of like the knockout format that used to exist, that existed before this. But the interesting difference, as you've seen, is that you only see one problem at a time. So in the knockout format, it was still a 1v1, but you could both see all the problems, and it's just whoever solves each problem first gets the points for it. But both of you can see all the problems. So that had a bit of tactical gameplay as to which, you had to strategize and like choose which problem you would go for based on what you think your opponent would do and like their strengths and so on. So there was like some kind of probabilistic element to that as well. In this case, where is this notebook? In this case, you can only see one problem at a time. It just makes it so much more stressful, I think, or intense, because your opponent is working on the same problem. So yeah, I think essentially the conclusion from this round was that the interactive problem kind of saved me. I just really like interactive problems, and I just did the first few slightly faster, and the interactive problem came in just when I needed it. Okay. I'm about to pull up the screen so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, here we go. And let me get rid of this 403 for bin that's right here above my head, because this was meant to be the scoreboard and it worked in the round that we cancelled earlier today. Maybe the fact that we cancelled it meant that this URL for some reason is now broken. I don't know. But let me just hide that. All right, so I mean, this is what I was writing that you couldn't see during the round. This is all I wrote, not this. This was in the round we cancelled. But I think it's probably just best to redraw everything. So because I was in a rush, actually. So let's start with A and just go through them. So this was problem A. What was problem A? So we just had to print. We were given two numbers, n and t, and we had to print an n-digit number that was divisible by t. So in this case, we have a 3-digit number that's divisible by 2. Or say that none exists, and that's printing -1. and t was between 2 and 10. So the trick here is if t is less than 10, if t is a digit itself, essentially, we can just print n copies of t. So in this case, we can just print like 222, and we know that's divisible by 2. So it's actually always possible in that case. And if t is 10, then, well, that's the edge case basically in this case, and we just have to print a multiple of 10 with n digits, and that's easy, just like say 1 and a bunch of zeros, except if n is 1, that doesn't exist. So the only actual input combination where you print -1 is n equals 1 and t equals 10. And that's, I think, the case that both of us missed. If you look at, that's the case that I missed here. And that's why I got the wrong answer on test 9. And then I got AC when I resubmitted it. And my opponent also got the wrong answer in test 9. And since we've just concluded that that's the only possible test that test 9 is, then yeah, my opponent just missed the same thing. So this is what happens when you force people to solve problems at extremely high speed. They submit things without thinking about them fully, and then it's just like how careful you've been. It's a balance of being careful and being fast. Okay, so that's problem A. I didn't really have to draw anything. Problem B. Problem B. We get given, in short, we get given a rooted tree, and this like whole leaves falling, apples falling thing is. I mean, I can draw it out for you, but it doesn't basically what they said is you get a rooted tree rooted at 1, and you've got an apple in 2 of the nodes. Like, how do I draw an apple? There you go. That's an apple. That's an apple. We've got 2. Actually, I'll make them red. Why not make them red? Got 2 apples. There we go. That's nice. So we've got 2 apples, and the apples. This is there's too much effort for this problem, I think. But basically, the apples. Every time you shake the tree, the apples fall down towards one of the children of the node that you're at. So if you shake the tree, this apple can either go this way or this way. This apple can either go this way or this way, and they keep going. And then if they're in a leaf, then they just fall off the tree. And basically the question is like, how many different pairs of places can these 2 apples fall off from? And the answer was just like find that out for each apple individually and multiply them together. Yeah, and these are ordered pairs as well. So like it matters which apple falls off from which. So literally all you need to do is like find out the answer for a single apple and then multiply them together. And also you've got these as pairs of these as queries. So you need to do this like pre-compute something, or basically all you need to pre-compute here is for each node you pre-compute the number of leaves in its subtree. So for this one it's 2, for this one it's 1, for this one it's 1, for this one it's 3, for this one it's 1, etc. This one's 2, and then you just for each query you just multiply like the 2 subtree leaves counts together. I think the only subtle point is how you deal with the root node in here, but but I don't actually think you needed this because like if the root node is a oh no, you did, sorry, yeah. So my point was that like if the root node is a leaf itself, you don't want to count it as a leaf basically because it has children. So actually the problem says like if it doesn't say if the node is a leaf, it says if the node has no children, and so the root node is the only node that can be a leaf without but still have children, because if it's like this, then it still has a child. So you kind of have to be careful there, but yeah, otherwise kind of standard the problem. Okay, so that's B. You can I'll like flash the code in case you want to like pause and look at it, and then same for A. Yeah, that was just A. Bit messy, but There you go. C was an input output to a file IO problem, which apparently still exists. I guess, because we're randomly generating these problems, this was just an older problem that uses file IO or is from some other contest. I don't know what contest it's physics practical from. Full screen this. It's from like an old div too. Yeah, I guess they just had file IO at that point. Sure. So yeah. Oh, for the problem itself, yeah, let's do the problem. Yeah, this is actually kind of a similar problem in a sense to one of the ones I got in yesterday's practice stream, in the sense that it's also just like 2 pointers. Yeah, it's quite similar actually, except you're doing like y is at most 2 times x instead of y is at most x plus 5 or something. So other than that, it's like the same problem, or it can be reduced to the same problem. So you're given a bunch of numbers, and you want to find the fewest number of values you have to erase, so that of the values remaining, the biggest one is at most twice the smallest one. And so the way you solve this is like you fix each possible smallest value, and then find how many you have to delete to make that the smallest value, and the biggest value at most that times 2. So like you'd have to delete everything smaller than that and everything bigger than 2 times that. So basically you want to find, like, if you sort all these values, which is what I do, you sort all these values, you want to find the biggest range that satisfies like this property. And you can use 2 pointers for that, because basically if I just take the sample that we had, if we take 4, wait, I need to sort them. 3, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. 3, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. So we start with the first value. That's 3 here. We start with the first value, and we find that we just start shift, like this range obviously works. This is fine, because the biggest number is at most twice the smallest one. So we just keep expanding the range until it breaks. So like after 7, we have to stop, because after 5 we have to stop, because 7 is bigger than 6. 2 times 3. And so now the property that you were exploiting that allows it to use 2 pointers is that if you shift this start point to the right, the endpoint will never shift to the left. Like if you increase the smallest value, you can always, go at least as far, if not further. So in this case, the smallest value didn't actually increase; it stayed the same. So it's just like the same range. But yeah, that's the point. Like for each left value, we're finding the largest range that we can work with. So in this case, the 4 already gets you all the way to the end. So you'll have this, and then you just take the biggest of these ranges that you keep. So in this case, it's this one or this one, and those are both size 4. And so the number you have to remove is the rest, so 2. And you just implement that like this. Like this. All right, next problem. So these 3, A, B, C, were the ones I solved at the start, and then my opponent came back with D and E. So D, let's see, D, Bessie and the cows are playing with sequences and need your help. So I think this is one I submitted, but I got the wrong answer or something, and I think my opponent submitted faster than me anyway. So this problem is, I'll just explain it to you on here. So we've got we've got a sequence. The sequence is initially just a 0, and we're basically just given a bunch of instructions for what's going to happen to this sequence. So the first thing that happens, there are 3 different types of instructions, and we're just given a list of these instructions. So one type of instruction is, let's say we've already like modified this array, and it's become, after some time, it's become like 3, 7, 2, 4, 5. The first type of instruction is you take some prefix of level length AI, and you take some prefix of a given length, basically, and you add a given value to all the values in the prefix. So like you increase all of them by x. The next one, and then the other 2 possible operations are either adding a value to the end of a given value, so like let's say someone says add 7 to the end, or removing a value from the end, so removing the 5. So those are the different possible operations. And you just have to basically simulate this. So the problem says, after each operation, print the average of all values for some reason in the sequence. So you have to print the mean, the arithmetic mean of all values in the sequence after each operation, not just after the end. So to do this, if it was just after the end, this this plus x might have been easier. The tricky part here essentially is that this plus x is over a lot of elements, so it would be too slow if you just iterated through them and added to them. But you also can't just you also can't just add x to the end, and you can't have a sort of prefix. You can't do the regular trick of some kind of prefix array where you add x to a certain, just the last position, and then you like carry it over later on, in a sense, or like add x here and subtract x here, and then at the end you carry it over, because you also need to know what the running average value is. But I mean, I guess the trick sort of does work because you can make it work. I haven't explained this very well, but let me actually explain what I'm doing and it'll make more sense. So what you do here is, you keep track. So first of all, we need to figure out the average after each step, but figuring out the average is just like figuring out the total. The total is just much nicer to work with. So we just keep track of the total of all numbers and the number of how many there are, and after each step we just divide those and print the average. But so we need to just keep track of the total. It's easy to keep track of how many there are, because you either increase that number by 1 or decrease by 1 depending on the operation. So we just need to keep track of the total of all the numbers. And how do we do that? So again, the tricky part is dealing with this addition in such a way, like dealing with each of these operations individually is kind of trivial. Like just adding x to the first a values is easy because you're just adding like a times x to the total. Just adding a value k at the end is easy because you're just adding k to the total, and just popping the last value is easy because you're subtracting like the last value from the total. But the reason this is hard is because you have to do all this in such a way that when you're popping the last value from the end, you need to also know what the last value is, right? So you can subtract it from the total. So actually, you need to keep track of the array as well, not just the total. But if you want to keep track of the array, this like add across the whole range thing is quite expensive. It takes a lot of time, so you can't actually do it. But the trick here is that you don't actually need to keep track of the whole array. You only need the last value. So that's kind of confusing, but you can store the array in such a format that you could always extract the last value and then if you take out the last value, you can also turn the array into you could modify the array by removing the last value and then and then it's easy to extract the next last value and so on. So the way of storing this basically is you're just storing the last value raw. So in this case, if I take off this k, I'm just storing that the last value is 5 at the end. So that's last val in my code. And then additionally, I'm storing the adjacent differences between every value as an array, or as like a list. So I'm going to store, in this case, I'm going to store like +4, -5, +2, +1. So the reason this helps is, first of all, I have the last value in an explicit fashion, so I know what to subtract from the total. And secondly, this is easy to update when you're popping the last value, because you just take the last value off. Like you change the last value. So in this case, if the last value is 5, I just subtract this +1 from it, this last delta, and that tells me that the previous value before it was 4, so I can change that from 5 to 4, and then I can just pop this like last adjacent difference from this list of adjacent differences, and subtract 5 from the total. So that works, and then I've gotten to a stage where I can just repeat the same thing. So this has like the decomposability from the end property that I wanted. I can also easily like add to the list in the same way, just by like setting the last value to the k I want to add and just calculating the adjacent difference and putting it on the end. And importantly, the motivation for this is that now like this plus x on a prefix is a very inexpensive operation, because all that means I'm doing is, since basically this whole array is now modeled as like a sequence of, I have what the last value is, which is 5, and then I've got like a bunch of the whole array is like, visually it's like hanging from this last element, and I've just got I can control the adjacent differences instead of the values themselves. So if I want to add x to a certain prefix, all I need to do is like, if these values all increase by x, then the only adjacent difference that actually changes is this one. So this adjacent difference will decrease by x, because all these values will increase by x, but none of these adjacent differences here will change. So I just need to decrease this adjacent difference, and that in effect like shifts this whole thing up, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's the situation. So the thing here is, yeah, that's basically the solution to the problem. 1 second, someone's calling me for some reason. Excuse me. Sorry, I can't talk at the moment. Wait, I'm going to pick up this. Hello? I can't talk at the moment. I'm streaming. Yeah, I'm live on YouTube right now. You can check the live stream if you want. Yeah. It's just my name. It's just my full name. Yeah. I'll talk to you afterwards though. Should be done in like 20 minutes. All right. See ya. Yeah, that's a friend of mine. Yeah. So we've shown that basically this kind of structure is exactly what we need, and you can implement this pretty simply, like this. Yeah. Again, I'm not going through the implementation, but that's how this works. Next problem. Next problem. Okay. Problem E, right? So actually, wait. Let me take a look at D and see. Did I finish this? Oh, I think I finished this, but it was wrong, right? It was correct on this case, but it was wrong on this case. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have told you to like this isn't the correct code, so I should have fixed this before telling you it was correct. So what was the difference? So it works on this case. There are no type 1 operations in this case, though. It's just type 2s, these operations, and type 3. So this one has type 1s. So maybe I think it's probably just type 1 operations that I had a bug in. Let me go back through this real quick. I just want to find this bug, honestly. So, I mean, it's also useful if this problem is like interesting to you to try and find what's wrong here. So I have the last value in the total and these adjacent differences. So I assume these are correct. I'll focus I'll just go through them anyway. So if I get some value k, then I add it to the total. I add the adjacent difference to the end, and then this is the new lost value. If I'm popping, then I subtract it from the total, the lost value. Then I decrease the lost value by the lost adjacent difference before that. Yeah, that's correct. And then I remove that adjacent difference. Makes sense. So it's this case. So I start with, so I've got to add x to the first, well, I guess I called this lost, but like to the first this many values. This is the last index where I'm adding x to. So the first thing I'm doing is, if this is, wait, what? I had a +1 here and then I removed it. Should I have removed it? So if the, oh, I can't hide that. If the number of values I have, let's say, is 3. Let's say I have 3 values. Then the adjacent difference array will look like this, right? It'll have like index 0, it'll just have 2 values in it, and it's a +4 and a -5. So this is what the adjacent difference array looks like if these are the indices and these are the values. So in this case, the highest number of values that can be in the input is 3, right? So it can be up to 3. 3. So that's actually, the size of this is 2, but it can be up to 3. Yeah, so this should be size +1. This should be size +1. This is incorrect. And then, yeah, total plus equals loss times x. So however many there are times x. Then I'm decreasing loss to make it an index. Now, this is the point here where, yeah, this is the mistake. So again, I should increase this by 1. So I'm decreasing it to make it an index. So back in this example, if here we were, say, adding to the first 2 values, then I'll decrease that to make it 1. And then I'll just change this adjacent difference, which is correct because that corresponds to changing this one. And then if the value was actually 3, then I don't need to change any adjacent differences, just the lost value. So I just have like the same off by 1 in both of these. So maybe this is now correct. So either I'm changing the lost value or the adjacent difference. Yeah, this looks good now. I'm going to try and resubmit. I can't resubmit on the same page, but I can find the Codeforces contest that has this problem. It's a div1a. It's a div1a. Let's see. This is the new submission. I haven't actually looked at the, I assume this is sufficient precision. I think it said 10 to the -6. What? What? Expected Oh, I haven't printed it. Yeah, okay. It's exactly what I just said. I didn't add enough precision to this either. I'm just going to do that. This is in the IO manipulation library, like this. But I don't need to do that because I've got this bad boy that does everything for you. Now everything should just have lots of digits. Okay, so yeah, that's problem D. So yeah, it seems like I was kind of close to this, but I had enough by one error here and a precision error here, so that wasn't something that I was going to win. It seems this problem wasn't one I was going to win. Okay, next one. So next problem was problem E, which was inversion counting. So this problem I'll just tell you the problem. We had a permutation. And wait, this is a different drawing. That's not a permutation. We have a permutation. This actually needs to be a permutation. We have a permutation, and we have to find the number of inversions in the permutation. And an inversion is like a pair of numbers where a bigger number is before a smaller number. So like this is an inversion, this is not an inversion. So we have to find the number of inversions in this permutation after each of a sequence of operations, and the operations are take the segment and reverse it, so make it like 5, 3, 2, 6. And that's actually quite a tricky problem, except for we only have to print the parity of the number of permutations, whether it's odd or even. And something you can realize, which is game changing, is that this operation, how this operation changes, this reversal operation changes the parity of the number of inversions, does not depend on the values, the actual values in the range. Because if you think about it, what does this reversal operation do? So it doesn't touch any pairs that are where both the values are outside this range, or any pairs where one of the values is outside this range and one of the values is inside this range. So the only pairs that it affects are the pairs where both of the values are inside the range. And in that case, if you think about what it actually does, every pair that in that range that was inverted becomes uninverted, and any pair that wasn't inverted becomes inverted. So it just flips. If you imagine for each pair of actual values, it just flips whether or not they're inverted in that range. So how it changes but each of those flips changes the parity. So it'll change the parity if and only if it just has an odd number of pairs inside that range. So, that's just, in this case, there are 4 values in the range. So there are 4 times 3 over 2 values in the pairs in the range. And since this is 6, that's even, so it won't change the parity. So this operation won't change the parity. Whereas if this was odd, it would change the parity. So that's actually all you need to do. You can forget the array after you've calculated the initial number of inversions. So the tricky part here was literally just calculating the initial number of inversions. And if you saw me trying to solve this problem, I realized this observation kind of immediately, and then just sitting there trying to think of a better way to calculate inversions because I didn't remember how to implement this. But it turns out I did remember how to implement this with a Fenwick tree. I just didn't want to write it because I thought I'd forgotten how to write this, even though it's kind of simple. It's been a while, guys. But in the end, I wrote it, and then this part's really simple. How to count number of inversions in an array? It's just like some kind of you just use a Fenwick tree, which basically you can look this up, but you can look this up. I'm not going to explain this. It's just you use a Fenwick tree on values rather than on like the indices of the Fenwick tree are values of the array. And since it's 1 to n, that's fine. So that was E, and yeah, I literally had this copied into my clipboard when my opponent solved it, and it was correct on samples. No debugging, so maybe it's not correct, I don't know, but let's also find this problem and see if the code I was going to submit is correct. Is it this problem? Yes, it is. So this was actually a div2d. Inversion counting was our problem E. Yep, okay. Yeah, so I think when I got the notification that he'd solved it, that must mean he submitted it like 10, 15 seconds earlier because it had to run the tests. So I probably lost this problem by like 20 seconds, which is, actually fairly big. If you, 15, 20 seconds is not that small in this kind of contest because how long were we on this problem? Yeah, he solved it in 5 minutes, and I would have had him 5 minutes 20. So that's pretty big in terms of these. In terms of this contest, that's a pretty big difference, I guess. So that was E, inversion counting. And finally F. Well, not finally, that was a G, but this is the only one we solved. This is the last one we solved. And this one was my saving grace. I was losing before this problem. So we have a string. You can't see this. We have a string of length n, a binary string of length n. I'm going to put these in the grid squares, actually. We have a binary string of length n, and we have to find the position. We're guaranteed that there is at least one 0 in the string and at least one 1, so it's not all zeros or all ones. And we have to find the position of a 0 and a 1. Any 0 and any 1. But we can't actually see the string, because otherwise it'd be too easy. We're given access to some kind of oracle that we can ask questions to. So we can ask it, we can give it another string, so some kind of query string. Some kind of query string of the same length, and it'll tell us what the Hamming distance between these two strings is. And the Hamming distance is defined as just the sum of pairwise distances between these values. So the number of positions in which they differ, basically. The number of positions in which these strings differ. So your queries are, you give a string, and it tells you how many positions it differs from the original string. Tricky part is, you're only given, the string length is up to 1,000, but you're only given 15 queries. String length is up to 1,000, but you're only given 15 queries. So, if you were given, where n is the length of the string, if you were given n queries, you could just determine, or around n queries, n plus 1 actually, you could determine the value of every every character just by like, querying all zeros initially. That tells you how many ones there are, and then you just change one bit at a time to a 1. So you query 1 and a bunch of zeros, then 0, 1, 0 and a bunch of zeros, then 0, 0, 1 and a bunch of zeros, and so on. And then each of these, like, depending on whether the Hamming distance goes up or down, this tells you what the digit in this position is. The issue is we only have 15 queries, and that is up to 1,000. But the fact that Q is around log n means that the following strategy works. Q is bigger than log n. Because log n is around 10, like 2 to the 10 is bigger than n. And that means like log n plus a few queries is fine. Log n plus like 5 queries. So what do we do? Well, the trick is some kind of binary search looks like it'll work here, but you'd have to do 2 binary searches, one to find a 0, one to find a 1. And that would be too high because 2 times log n is bigger than Q, the number of queries that you can use. So the number of queries that you can use is 15. But the thing you can work out is, if I just check what the first digit is, then I won't have to find that one. So what I'm doing is I'm sending a bunch of zeros and then a 1 and a bunch of zeros. So essentially what I said I'd do earlier, but only for the first digit. And depending on which of these queries is bigger, it tells me what the first digit is, whether that's a 0 or 1. So now I know this is a 0, and all I need to do is find the position of a 1, and then I'm good. If this was a 1, I'd have to find the position for 0. And they're basically equivalent, but now I can do that in log n queries. And how do I do that? Well, if I know what the answer is to this query of all zeros, then if I send another query with all zeros up to some point, and then all ones after that, this allows me to check how many, whether or not there are any, so I'm trying to find a 1, right? With this method, I can check whether or not there's a 1 in these last few positions or not. So in this suffix that I set to 1s, in the original string, whether there's a 1 in that suffix or not. Because if there isn't, if it's all zeros, if this was a 0, 2, then this query with zeros and 1s at the end would give me the same answer as this query plus like the length of this suffix that I set to 1. So in this case, plus 3. Because the distances would have been like 0 to 0, 0 to 0. So these would have all been the same, and now they're all different. So this query compared to that query would have increased the answer by 3. If it doesn't increase the answer by 3, if it increases by anything else, or like decreases or whatever, then these aren't all zeros. So there's at least 1 1 in this range. You can, and then what that means is that you can just binary search with the size of the suffix, and you can use this type of query to check whether there's a 1 in that suffix. And since you're guaranteed that a 1 exists, if you just do this binary search, it'll end up finding you exactly the suffix that contains the last 1 followed by all zeros. So this will find you the last 1. So I'm finding the last 1 in the string. And the same strategy also works if the first value turned out to be 1. You could mirror the strategy and send like all 1s and then zeros at the end, but I'm not actually doing that. I'm still sending this all zeros query that I had at the start. I'm not redoing that. And I'm still doing the same thing where I send zeros and then a bunch of 1s at the end. But since I care about 1s now, since I care about finding a 0 now, I'm checking whether there is a 0 in the end of the string or whether it's all 1s. And that means if it was all ones, then this distance would be maximal, and so this would decrease the distance by whatever the length of this suffix is. And so I'm just checking whether it decreases instead of increases by that length. But yeah, this just works basically. This is the where is the code? This is the code. This is just a query function, and this is the main code. Yeah, so G is a problem that we didn't get to. I don't know whether my opponent got to it. Well, one of my opponent was thinking if he started solving it, but we had less than 6 minutes to solve it, so none of us got to it. None of us solved it. I wasn't anywhere near solving it. I'm not going to solve it now because I just don't want to. Yeah, so that was the contest. These are the results. I won. I've already shown you who I'm facing next. Hopefully, well, not hopefully. That's just going to be game over. But you know, I get to face an LGM, a legendary grandmaster, in a 1v1. Not that the IGMs weren't tough enough, honestly, but take down 2 IGMs. 2 IGMs. Okay, I'll see you in a few days for the next one. Just keep an eye out for when that's going to be. Yeah. All right. See you guys.